Well, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Friday morning. We appreciate everybody taking time to jump online and do some training with us this morning. For those of you who know me, you know me. For those of you that don't, my name is Michael Ridler. I am the Technical Services Manager and the trainer for Eden Energy Equipment. We are the master distributor for WaterFurnace for all of Ontario. I'm joined this morning by my counterpart, Matt Irvine. Matt doesn't have a camera. He's working remotely. Matt, you want to take a second and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Matt Irvine. I've been with Eden for going on 13 years. My background is engineering, and I'm the geothermal sales manager at Eden Energy for all of Ontario.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So
Yeah.
the objective for today's webinar is we want to talk a little bit about Symphony. Symphony is one of those really cool solutions that really takes a water furnace geothermal heat pump to the next level. What I mean by that is that unlike putting a smart thermostat on a heat pump, the Symphony system actually internet enables the entire unit. The amount of data and the amount of value that that brings to the contractor and to the homeowner is immense. And so Matt and I wanted to get online, do a quick little presentation because we're not entirely sure that everybody understands all the great features that Symphony brings. And the other thing that's worth noting is that the software that comes with Symphony, there's no charge with it. So really, we'd like to see more people adopting this software, and we felt like the best way to do that was to get online and sort of do a quick presentation as to what the value add for this product actually is. So Symphony as a whole, we like to call it a home comfort platform. And what that means is it gives the homeowner control of their home from anywhere. And so if you've just installed a very basic water furnace unit that just has a thermostat and that's all, then great. It's basically going to give them that smart thermostat experience. But if you've worked with Matt and you've designed a system where you're selling a 5 series or a 7 series piece of equipment that is completely fully loaded, it gives the homeowner the access to data for things like power consumption. And if there's a zoning system on it, it even gives them the ability to not just control one thermostat, but to see every single thermostat on that zoning system and be able to make adjustments on the fly. So from a home comfort platform standpoint, it really is the best system on the market. Now, Matt, as we talk about this as a home comfort platform, what do you think some of the key features of this system are that you think people should really focus on?
Well, I think one of the things that maybe is misunderstood is that it's water furnace's version of an Ecobee, and it's not. The big difference from my perspective is you get all of that functionality and all of that capability, but that you also get the Wi-Fi is enabled at the heat pump level. So all of the sensors, controls, monitoring, everything internal to that unit that makes the water furnace so powerful to troubleshoot and to service is available remotely. That includes energy monitoring, that includes fault recognition, that includes all of the more technical aspects that a dealer gets with the performance refrigeration monitoring. It is far more than just remote access for temperature control.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement, Matt. And Matt and I talk about this a lot. You're not putting a smart thermostat on this unit. So a smart thermostat is a great thing. What you're doing by putting Symphony on this unit is you're giving the homeowner that smart experience, whether it's through a computer, a tablet, or a smartphone. But the biggest thing is you are internet enabling that entire unit. So whatever that unit can do, you can see remotely. Now, for me, that's great for the homeowner. We want to give that homeowner that remote accessibility. But really where Symphony is in its glory is for the contractor. The functionality that this system offers to contractors is immense. It is the best service and diagnostics tool on the market, bar none. The amount of things that Matt and I have been able to solve where an installer or a service tech has made a tiny mistake, we're all human, I'm human, Matt and I make mistakes. The Symphony allows us to drill right down into that unit and see what's going on with it. So what it ends up doing is it takes the entire Aurora platform system, which is what WaterFurnace uses on all of their equipment now, and it puts it into an online interface so that your technical team can effectively service that equipment. So a great example for that would be that if one of your units ever had a problem and locks out, your homeowner gets notified, you get notified, you can log into that unit and see exactly what that unit is doing, was doing, and more importantly, if you reach out to our technical team at Eden Energy, and if you give us a homeowner name, a serial number, whatever you've got, our technical team now has the ability to go in, look at that unit, and do some troubleshooting. Thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the exact thing with with
Oh,
Wi-Fi
Matt,
enabling the entire system and not just the thermostat, right? And I think that's part of, what's that?
your microphone is cutting
Did you
out,
lose me?
Matt. Yeah, you're just cutting out intermittently. You're good now.
Oh, all right. All right, we'll keep on trucking. I'll switch to a wired connection.
That sounds good. So key thing to keep in mind is that Symphony is a really interesting system that doesn't require any sort of software skill for your technicians. You don't have to be a nerd like Matt and I. You don't have to be well versed in software. Symphony is a cloud-based platform. All you need to do is physically install the hardware into the house. It plugs right into the equipment. It works on the 7 series, it works on the 5 series, and it also works on the 3 series. Some people are under the wrong impression that because the 3 series is the builder model that it doesn't support Symphony. It absolutely does. Every single unit that WaterFurnace makes using the Aurora platform will use this system. And the Symphony in a nutshell is just a little router, but the idea behind this is it collects a metric ton of data. So what it will do is it collects over 100 data points off of that equipment on a 10-second data capture, and they store that information for over 18 months. So what that means is that if you have a unit that's doing something strange right now, it might be locked out with a problem now, but there could have been something that's been happening over the last 6 months to a year that led to that. Well, as a service technician, if I get called to site, I don't really have any of that information without Symphony. All I'm seeing is what happened right now. So great case in point, let's say that the unit's locked out on high pressure. I roll into the mechanical room and all I see is that nothing's locked out now. Well, maybe the homeowner didn't clean the filter and pulled the filter out before the tech got there. So by capturing this in excess of 100 data points and storing it for over 18 months, what that enables us to do is log in and see what was the unit doing before the service technician showed up. It also means that as we see a lockout, we can look at every single condition, including what was the unit doing, what was the call, what was the output to the unit, and what was the homeowner doing. So there's a lot of things that really come into the play here. The other thing that is really essential is that it does track all the lockout codes as well. So you can go in and see, am I consistently having a communication error? Am I getting high pressure lockouts? The amount of data that the system collects is very, very impressive. And the way it's been put together, there's been a lot of thought that's been put into it. So this is a really nice illustration that shows how it works. So as I said, the Aurora web link plugs directly into the unit. It then communicates with the homeowner's router, which then transmits the data remotely. So the homeowner has remote access to the unit, the dealer has remote access to the unit, and our technical team also has remote access to that unit. So that if you're in the field and you're stumped on what's going on, you can reach out to Matt, myself, or Cody, and we would happily log into that unit and have a look at it. So what that means is you are making me and Matt and Cody part of your service team, and we become an extension of you. The advantage that we have over your technicians is that, number one, we're at a desk, so we're comfortable. We have laptops, we can look things up quickly. And the other thing to remember is it's not that we're smarter, it's we just have to focus on less stuff. The only thing that Matt and I have to worry about in the day is heat pumps, mechanical ventilation, and hydronics. If it doesn't fall into those 3 categories, we don't worry about it. That's why we're able to have a team that truly has expertise in those 3 areas. So the Symphony allows us to drill into that unit, help your team. It also helps your service manager sitting in their office to be able to log in and help that technician in the field. And what I also like about it is it gives you the ability that if you have a problem with a unit, to log into that unit before you even go. Because if it is the filter conversation I just noted, you will see that in the logs in the Symphony system, and you're not going to send your licensed tech out to pull a filter and replace it. You might send the apprentice. So the ability to get remote access to data through the system is very impressive. And the key thing is it quite literally is a plug and play. You can see the Aurora web link. You're going to plug that directly into the unit. As soon as you've done that, it's a very simple registration process, and then the unit is online. So key thing we like to know about or like to say about the system is, number one, it gives you peace of mind because you always know what the unit is doing. If the unit locks out, you're going to get an email before the homeowner even knows that unit is locked out. You're going to click on the link in the email. It's going to tell you exactly what the unit is locked out on. And here's the key thing. It's going to tell you what the unit was doing when it locked out. And depending on what unit you have, that can be as detailed as superheat, subcooling, suction pressure, discharge pressure. Every input, every output, every contact in that unit, you can see exactly what it's doing every 10 seconds before that for over 18 months. So as a service technician, that's amazing. It makes it very easy for us to troubleshoot the equipment. The other thing it does is it gives the homeowner that, as Matt said, that ecobee, that nest experience, where all the homeowner cares about is they want to be able to control the unit when they're in Florida or out of town. But don't dismiss the fact that this tool has more value for you as a contractor or designer than it does the homeowner. Because again, it gives peace of mind. You install a piece of equipment, you can stand behind that piece of equipment and your level of service because you know everything that unit is doing every 10 seconds. The other thing, as we talked about, is it does send out push notifications. They go out by email. They will also go out by text. I will caution you that if you are going to use the text function, please double check the phone number you put in. We don't have a way to validate it. It's only happened once, but Matt, I did get a call from somebody out of the blue and said, hey, my Symphony keeps sending me notifications, but I thought they said my Symphony. What they were saying was a Symphony keeps sending me text notifications. So
yeah.
You as a contractor putting in the phone number, make sure you put the right phone number in. That's really the only technical issue we actually had with Symphony, which is quite impressive. The other thing that's really key, and we talked about this, is that having the Symphony is going to allow you to build an impressive maintenance package. You now can do a maintenance package with the building owner, the homeowner, whatever it may be, where it is literally a 24/7, 365 maintenance package where you can tell that homeowner with honesty that the second something happens to your geothermal investment, my technical team is going to get notified and we're going to take care of it. And although this software is free to every WaterFurnace and GeoStar dealer, it doesn't change the fact that you should be charging for this as part of a maintenance program. It's going to be the easiest maintenance program you put together, and it's going to help you be more profitable. But more importantly, it's going to help you hold on to that customer and maintain that relationship for repeat business. And obviously, as you're getting alerts, it allows you to be proactive with your maintenance. So if you were not planning on going to that homeowner, but you suddenly start to see a few lockouts that, you know, nuisance lockouts, but things that don't concern you too much, you get to make that decision by looking at it. And at that point, you might decide, you know what, Matt Irvine's unit just gave us a few nuisance lockouts here. We're noticing they're resetting it a lot. We're seeing E99s. We should send out the technician just to do the annual maintenance now, and let's find out why is the homeowner turning the power off. Because that example is real. If the homeowner is going in and flipping the power on and off, you can now see that. And that is a great functionality. One of my favorite things when I get called to site to go with a technician is when I get there and the unit's not locked out, you look at the homeowner, did you reset it? Oh, no. But 9 times out of 10, it might have been reset. That's like our instinct of you turn it off and on. So you can see this, you can be proactive, you can build really good maintenance programs around it. Now the contractor portal, obviously there's immense value for this. You can solve issues from the office, as Matt and I were talking earlier. If the unit locks out, your service manager in the office has the ability to log in, look that unit up, see what that unit is doing. And again, as long as you are ordering a system that has the functionality that you want in your maintenance programs, you can see everything that you could possibly want. You can see live heat of extraction calculations, and again, all the refrigeration data, all of the electrical data. It's over 100 data points logged every 10 seconds. So as a service tool, it's immense. The other thing that comes into play here is you're not wasting time making multiple trips. The ability to look at what the unit is doing and realize, you know what, this was just a blip, there's no reason to send a technician, that's a good thing. The fact we're not charging a homeowner for a $150, $200 service call they didn't need to pay for, they're going to be very impressed with your level of service, and the fact that you're able to diagnose things remotely and just charge them as part of a maintenance plan. Maybe you charge them $40 a month as a monitoring fee where you maintain and monitor that equipment, because one of the things Matt and I are going to show you is you can do a lot more than just monitoring. There are things that you can change and update in this system as well. The other thing you can do is you can see performance data. So if you wanted to, you could actually give your homeowner, as part of their monthly or quarterly package, a report that shows the performance of their unit with a graphical interface that shows how their unit has been performing over the last quarter, 6 months, whatever you decide. You build the program that works for you. And the beauty of it is it's very, very easy to do. Obviously, Matt and I would help with any questions on how to do it, but the access to data is key. And Matt and I talked about this earlier. The biggest thing that's important about this is that customer satisfaction. One of the things that Eden Energy has been very successful at over the last 4 decades, we've been in business now for 42 years, is we take great pride in putting people before profits. We care about our customers. And we will go out of our way to service and help our customers, and we don't charge for that. This Symphony allows you contractors that are already doing that as well to up your game to the customer. You now have this ability to make sure they are always satisfied, and you can answer the questions more intelligently when they say, what caused my unit to lock out on low pressure? Instead of making assumptions and theories, you can show them and explain to them, this is what happened, this is what we've done, and you can tell them with near 100% confidence, it's not going to happen again because we've taken care of it. The other thing that's very nice is that, again, like I talked earlier, if you're not tying up all of your licensed technicians on nuisance things like replacing filters and doing things that should have been done by an apprentice or maybe a junior employee, this is going to free up your staff, which means that the Symphony system is going to make you more profitable. Matt, any thoughts on the contractor portal and some of the functionality and benefits to the contractor that I may not have touched on?
Yeah, I think other than just having the remote accessibility, which is nice on a whole lot of levels, I think of specific instances, one I've never forgotten, where we kept having a heat pump lockout on freeze protection. And no one could figure it out because you go to site, it works, right? The heat pump performs, everything's great. You all-note the thermistor, it looks good. Refrigeration's good, loop's good. Ethanol concentration is good. Like, there was absolutely no reason for this heat pump to be locking out. And then we finally got on and started going through the weeds on the web link. And we might have had to actually add the Symphony after the fact. I don't recall.
Yeah, so what happened there, not to jump in your story, but as the guy who drilled in on it, Matt got a phone call from an awesome customer, very, very skilled. The guy's name is Derek. And what was happening is every 6 to 7 months, they were getting a freeze protection lockout. The technicians could not figure it out. They would go to site, nothing wrong with the unit. So Matt suggested to the contractor to put a Symphony on it. And as soon as it locked out with a Symphony, I got notified, the contractor got notified, and we figured out immediately. What had happened is somebody had replaced the sensor in the unit, and one of the wires where they put it together was coming loose sporadically. And the way we found it was when we went into Symphony and looked at the freeze protection lockout, and we'll show you live in a second, we scrolled over and the resistance reading for that sensor was like this, like right off, like just picture 6 million numbers, and immediately went, we know what's wrong. You have to replace that sensor. But how many times, Matt, did they go to site before that happened? No fault of anyone's. We're not
the other part of that. Oh no, for sure. And the other thing is, it's not just that you can see that resistance, it's that you can see the refrigeration data, you can see the loop temperature, you can see everything leading up to that lockout in 10-second intervals, and everything was spot on until that thermistor just went off the rails, right? And thermistors, generally speaking, are pretty robust. And when you have freeze protection lockouts, my first thought isn't it's a bad thermistor, because it rarely is. But in this instance, if we hadn't had the web link, you would just start changing parts out, and the thermistor might have been early in the process because they're so inexpensive, or it might have been way down the list because it was so unlikely that that's the issue. I mean, it's not just seeing the lockout when it happens, it's seeing everything about that heat pump as it leads up to the lockout. So is the refrigeration system struggling? Is the loop getting cold? Is the leaving air temperature, like, is it a refrigeration issue, or is it just one component that's acting up and causing big problems?
For sure. So the other thing that comes into play here is that you now have access to a virtual aid tool. Everybody who's worked on WaterFurnace equipment is familiar with the aid tool. Great little device, very easy to use. And I've used the virtual aid tool. So the virtual aid tool allows you to actually, with your phone, your tablet, computer, to set up the unit without an actual aid tool. The other nice thing about this is that I and Matt and our tech team can log into a unit that has Symphony on it, and we can set it up remotely. There is an incredible amount of things that we can do with this, and I'll give you an example for that. We once had a contractor go to site, set up a system, and they added into the unit a variable speed pump, but forgot to tell the unit, hey, you have a variable speed pump on you. They left the job site and realized, oh my goodness, we now have to drive back. And it was about a 2-hour drive. They called me, we logged in remotely and fixed it for them. So there's a lot of things that you can do with the aid tool when you're sitting in front of the unit, but the virtual aid tool opens up a whole new envelope of options. So for example, you might have sent a junior tech to site to install the unit, and you might have somebody back in the office that's just verifying the setup is correct, guiding that technician on, hold on, I want you to change this, change that. And they might just say, you know what, let me just set this unit up. I'm gonna make the final tweaks, get everything working properly. So the virtual aid tool is a very, very cool addition to the system as well. Now, we've already talked about this. I'm not gonna harp too much on this. Basically, it's over 100 data points, as I told you, logged every 10 seconds. It's stored for over 18 months, which is significant. It's a lot of data that you can view in a graph form. You can view it in spreadsheet form. You can control exactly how that looks as you want to go through it. The other thing that's really cool, and I use this a lot, is that you can also take that data and you can look at it in a troubleshooting form layout. So if the unit is locked out, you can click on that lockout condition and it will pull up a troubleshooting form like I'm showing on my slide that will then show you what was happening when that unit locked out. And you can do the same thing. You can scroll through and see in a live format on a troubleshooting form that we're comfortable with that we can see what this unit was or was not doing. The nice part of this is if you don't want to use graphs or spreadsheets, you can use this, which for me, I prefer. I like to see it laid out in a mechanical form that I'm used to seeing. Matt, of these views, which ones do you like? How do you use them?
I find that the troubleshooting form is really good for a live snapshot of what's going on. I like to see that Excel spreadsheet, the big table, when I'm looking for specific instances. Like if the troubleshooting form is sort of indicated, all right, we're having an issue here. Yeah, that picture in the back with all the columns and rows, not because it's fun to look at, but that's how we found that freeze protection lockout with that wonky thermistor, right? And then you compare that to the refrigeration performance, you compare that to the loop. So the different screens provide different data for different scenarios.
Yeah, so there's no right or wrong answer, right? I love the graph as well. If you called me and said I'm getting E19 lockouts or whatever the lockout is, I'm going to start with the Excel spreadsheet layout style format, and then I'm going to go to this. I rarely use the graphing, but in the same token, we have other customers and there's people at the factory that they only use the graphing. It doesn't matter. The point is you can access and view the data how you want to view it. And that's what I like about how WaterFurnace has developed this product. WaterFurnace didn't develop Symphony for them, and it shows. They developed Symphony for us in that they allow us to use it in a format that we want to use it. And the other thing that's been beautiful with WaterFurnace on this is that they've been very open to feedback. When we've gone back to them and said, hey, how about this, how about that? It's so impressive on how they keep adding functionality that makes it easy for us. So some of the changes that they've made, if you've used Symphony before, this will look a little bit different to you, is they've cleaned the interface up a little bit, again, where we've provided feedback, and by we, I mean us, other distributors and WaterFurnace dealers. So although the spreadsheet has a lot of data, it's easy and clear to see. You can access the data, you can read through it quite concisely, but as you'll notice on the left-hand side, it's a lot of data. It's every 10 seconds, but we also have the ability to go in and tweak that. One of the other new additions that they made, which we really appreciate, is they've added a columns field. So what you can do is, to Matt's point, if we have a freeze protection lockout, we can go to the columns field and we can do things like say, okay, I don't care about any of the control inputs, right? I don't care whether I had a Y1 or a Y2 or an O call. I'm not sure I care about the outputs to the unit, because you can see a Y1 call and you can see a compressor output call. Maybe we turn those off. We only care about seeing water temperatures and refrigerant data to try to figure out what's happening, what caused this freeze protection lockout. So the addition for us to be able to filter by columns is a fantastic addition that really makes it a lot easier. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is 10-second data is a lot. That can be intimidating, especially if it's something that's only locking out once a day or once an hour, whatever the case may be. So you actually have the option to change how this data shows up. So 10 seconds being the default, you now have the ability to change that by the hour or every 15 minutes. So it does add an extra ability for you to sort of mitigate the data so it's not so overwhelming where you're looking at 1,000 data points. Instead, you're looking at 10 or 100 data points. And then obviously there's energy usage charts for the homeowner and also for yourself. So this is a really great way to show what the power consumption of the equipment is. WaterFurnace continues to evolve this data so that in the very near future, you'll be able to see things like time of use from an electrical usage standpoint. But right now, what this is intended to do is give the homeowner a good understanding of what is your electrical usage broken down by the unit, the fan, the pumps, the electric heat. So it allows you to see that data, but we're not using this as a tool to validate their hydro bill. This is really a bird's eye view of electrical. Matt, anything on that you'd like to add as from a standpoint of how we use this data?
No, I would repeat how wonderful WaterFurnace has been to feedback, because being able to remove or add rows, change the interval you're looking at the data, that's immense, because as much as it's awesome that you have over 100 data points, if you're specifically looking at 2 or 3 key things, it can sometimes be, as you said, overwhelming or just physically difficult if you've got a chart on the far left or a data column on the far left and a data column on the far right, just scrolling back and forth. So being able to remove the data you don't need so you can really focus in on what you're looking at has been well, for me, a game changer, because as much as there's over 100 data points in 10-second intervals, if you're looking for a daily trend, that's a lot of 10-second intervals to scroll through.
Yeah. And so like with the troubleshooting data, the electrical data is stored for the same amount of time. So it's in excess of 18 months, almost 2 years. So it's got a lot of data that the homeowner can access if they want to see, okay, what was my electrical consumption this February versus last February? It's a great tool for them to see what's going on. It also helps you guys. If you have a homeowner that complains and says, my electric heat is running all the time, this is a really good interface where you can log in and immediately look at it and go, wow, they're right, or they're not right. We need to go out and see that customer and find out how they're getting this impression and spend some time to educate them on the operation of the equipment. There's a lot of consumers that if we don't spell things out, they see us walking in with a 10 kilowatt heater, and Matt and I've been here, we're like, wait a minute, what's that? Is that running all the time? Right, I think that's your emergency backup. It's not running all the time. So this is a great tool where you can help to illustrate that to the customer. And again, here's a look at a graph data view. So for example, if we had a freeze protection lockout, we could pull up the graphical view. We could look at just loop freeze protection, and we could see, oh, okay, we do have significant swings happening with the entering water temperature. So again, sometimes you'll use the graphical view, sometimes you'll use the Excel view, and sometimes you'll use the troubleshooting view. It's truly up to you. And one of the most recent changes that WaterFurnace made that I love, because I am a software guy as well as an HVAC guy, and I love data. And as good as this is, I sometimes like to be able to download that data and run macros on my computer. I know I'm not alone in this. So the ability now to download the data onto your computer and use it is a really cool functionality. And it could be as simple as you just want to download the data to share it with the customer down the road. The other thing is when we get into the troubleshooting fault, so again, this is that Excel format look, you have the ability to search for lockouts. So for example, if the customer is complaining that they're getting communication alerts and they don't know what's causing it, we can click on faults. We can then type in whatever the fault may be. So if it's a communication fault, it's an E19. And all it will do is bring up the E19 fault so we can look and see what is actually happening there. We could do the same thing with a condensate fault, a freeze protection fault. It's a really good tool for us to filter data without changing the time frame. So instead of saying, I don't want 10 seconds of data, I want 15 minutes, you could simply go in and say, just show me the E19 faults. And then you can see that data and start to drill down on how we fix it. Now, I wanted to touch on this because I don't think most of the customers out there realize all the things that can be remotely set. So I'm not going to run through everything on the screen. I'm going to run through quite a bit of it. So if you actually have Symphony on the unit, you can log into that unit remotely and you can see things like your model, your serial number, but you can do some impressive things. You can change the ECM speeds. You can enable and disable domestic hot water. You can change the domestic hot water set point. You can change the loop pressure trip point as long as that feature's been installed. You can also manipulate the variable speed pump. So let's say the installer installed the unit, has a variable speed pump on it, and you guys log in a week later and go, you know what, I think we want to tweak that a little bit. Well, if you don't have this control on it, which again is free software, you don't pay for this software, you have to send a tech to site. With this, you just log in on your computer, make a few tweaks, log in a few days later, see how it's performing. You can also do things like if you forgot to set your antifreeze, you can go and you can set your antifreeze. So there's a lot of different data that you can and settings that you can change in this unit that I don't think a lot of people are aware. So Symphony is not only a tool for you to read data and see what's there, Symphony is also a tool where you have the ability to log in and make changes to that equipment. So for example, I've had technicians call me where they say, Mike, I've just set this thermostat up for some reason, it's doing something weird and I can't figure it out. If they have Symphony on it, I just log in and set the thermostat up with them. I can literally do every setting remotely from my office. And what I'll do is I'll tell them where I'm going through on the menus because it's the same for me as them. And I'll explain what I'm changing and why. And it's a really good training tool while you're in front of the equipment. In the same token, if you're not in front of the equipment and you've got an issue, you can do it remotely. It could be as simple as somebody left the electric heat running when they left the site and you need to turn it off. Great. Log in remotely, turn it off. Anything else on that, Matt, that you've utilized that I didn't cover?
No, I think that's a pretty exhaustive list.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff. I touched on this already. So you can do all of your thermostat settings remotely. You can also do your IntelliZone 2 setup. So there's a lot of things that we can do. Now, there will be some things that you can't get into from a safety standpoint. So WaterFurnace has put some limitations on things they don't want you to change because it could have a negative impact in the home. But there's an awful lot of configuration and setup stuff that we can do. For those of you watching this list going, wow, it's a huge list, this video will go up on our YouTube channel after this, so you can pause it, look at it. And obviously, we encourage you after this to reach out to Matt or I. We would happily come out and talk to you about this, do some training, have a phone call. So we're going to go through a few FAQs that sort of come up into play just to make sure everybody feels comfortable with this product. And the first one we want to talk about is where is the actual data stored? So the data is stored in WaterFurnace's actual servers. It's in the factory itself. It's not off in some cloud in Europe or wherever the case may be. So the data is stored at WaterFurnace. WaterFurnace runs those servers, and WaterFurnace maintains and upgrades those servers. The other thing important is that there is a very significant security layer on top of this product. There isn't any concerns from the standpoint of, oh, what is this unit going to be doing from a network standpoint? And then as far as the software goes, we've already talked about this and we just showed you a bunch of updates. WaterFurnace is continually upgrading this product. And what I can tell you is that I recently spoke with Chris Manns on camera. You'll find that on our YouTube channel, where we talked about the future of Symphony and what they're doing. They've actually taken Symphony and built an online portal where you can now see all of North America, and you as a contractor will be able to show your homeowners, here is the cost of operation for a 3 Series across North America, or in Ontario, or in Calgary, or wherever the case may be. So they've got a lot of really cool sales and marketing tools where they're taking all of this data, and obviously it's anonymized, it's not going to be known who it is, that gives the ability for you to use this data as a sales tool, because we now have validated performance data, including cost of operation data for all the units that are online. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that this system does work with a 2.4 and a 5 gigahertz router. This is really important, again, as the software nerd of the group. We want to pay attention to the fact that it is compatible with every router that is in a home. If you run into any sort of challenges in setting this up, Eve Energy has put together a one-page that's available on our website. Matt can give that to you, or anybody on our team can give it to you. And it's a very basic 10-step, here's how to get this thing online, because we understand not every service technician is super savvy with how to set that up. We talked about this already. There is no cost for the software associated with this. It is provided free when you purchase the Symphony. Matt, can you give us a rough idea on the cost of the actual WebLink hardware?
I think the WebLink itself is around $525.
Okay, so the WebLink hardware, which enables Symphony for the unit, you're going to pay just over $500 for that. And at the end of the day, you get the software for free. It's there permanently. And from a maintenance and service standpoint, it is a really good tool for you guys. It's going to pay for itself very quickly. The other thing that I do want to note is that the technical data we're talking about is not available to the homeowner. All the homeowner gets, and Matt and I are going to show you, is a basic smart thermostat interface. What you get as a service technician and or the designer working on the project is all of the troubleshooting data. That is intentional. We do not want the homeowners having too much data. There certainly are very technically savvy homeowners, but it's better to us to keep that ecosystem for the technical data locked down and let the homeowner have access to electrical usage, controlling their thermostats, and things like that. How do you get access to the contractor portal? That's really, really easy. So as a WaterFurnace dealer, we actually set you up in that contractor portal as soon as you purchase a Symphony. So if you've purchased a Symphony, you have a contractor portal. If you don't know how to use the contractor portal, reach out to Matt, and Matt will make arrangements to get you set up, provide training, basically whatever you need. In the same token, you could also reach out to myself. As far as how you actually get it, as soon as you install the WebLink, Symphony is part of WebLink. That's why I keep referring to it as Symphony. The hardware is called WebLink, but Symphony is the software. We just call it the same thing. So as soon as you buy that WebLink, it comes with the Symphony software built into it. You own it. That software is free. So by purchasing, you get it. There obviously is a mobile app that's available for Android or iPhone that the homeowner will use. There's also an app for you guys. I personally prefer to run it just in a browser on my tablet, but again, you can do whatever you like. And you know, the reason that WaterFurnace isn't charging anything for this is because at the end of the day, this is a great tool for them. I don't speak for WaterFurnace. I'm just going to speak for myself right now. if you think about it as a company, you've put a 10-year warranty on this piece of equipment because you can, right? They put it on an awesome product. They know it's an awesome product, and they put a 10-year warranty on it to guarantee that the homeowner is going to feel comfortable with that unit. Well, providing the web link with the Symphony software, what that means is it enables them to ensure that that unit's going to have a healthy life. Because should the unit have a problem, you're going to find out immediately. You're going to know there's a problem, you're going to be able to fix it. But what's more important is that typically it's not going to be a warranty issue. The bulk of the issues that Matt and myself and Cody run into is issues with either an application or installation issue, and then you get into, you know, a difficult discussion over warranty, and then Matt and I try and help you out, make the problem go away. Well, by using the web link, you're going to find out there's a problem immediately. So you're not going to wait 6 months for the unit to have a problem that's now a failure. Because if the unit has a lockout, and if you know about it, and if you fix it in a timely fashion, you're not going to hurt the equipment. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
No, I think that the proactive aspect is huge because, you know, there's components that don't typically fail, coax being one of them. And I can think of, you know, in the 13 years I've been with Eden Energy, we've had, I think, three claimed coax failures. 2 were genuine. One was plug solid on an open loop where they didn't do water quality testing. The other one was a homeowner that kept getting freeze protection lockouts, didn't have Symphony, just kept, and it was a closed loop, but just kept flipping the breaker to get the heat pump to run, and the coax finally gave out. Not because it was defective, it's because it had been freeze cycled so many times, it finally just failed. And that's a significant failure. I don't remember if it was in warranty or not, but it was somewhat moot because when you have a water to refrigerant failure, there's not much you can do. Even if you change the coax, you've got all sorts of problems with the refrigeration system. Those types of E99s, those types of lockouts can be identified preemptively with Symphony because you see it happening and you can address it, and you're not getting called to site after 3 years of lockouts and a failed coax.
Yeah, I completely agree, Matt. So we're going to do a little live demo here. If anybody has any questions, what you can do is you can just type them into the question box and Matt and I will certainly answer them. Before we go to the live demo, I just want to point out that obviously Eden Energy is on LinkedIn. Hit us up on LinkedIn. You can get up-to-date training from us. Typically we do training, we say every month, but lately it feels like it's been every week, which is great. You know, Matt and I are very passionate about this. We like to do training. It's a great opportunity for us to network, learn from you guys as well. If you go on our YouTube channel, so it's pretty easy, it's just Eden Energy Equipment, you'll see a lot of our previous content, not all, we like to keep some of it for the people that actually show up to these events, but you'll see training presentations on piping heat pumps, there's training with Robert Bean, John Siegenthaler, Dr. Allison Bales. There is a lot of technical content. Our YouTube channel is not a sales and marketing channel. It is a technical channel where we put our training, and certainly Matt and I have a lot of fun working on this stuff. So any questions, you can type them in. I am just going to quickly segue into a live demo where we are going to look at the Symphony. So what we're looking at right here on the Symphony is this is actually the homeowner view. And so what you get to see is what the homeowner is going to see as they log in. So the homeowner has the ability to see the current status of their unit, which tells us the unit is in heating stage 1. We can see the thermostat summary. So for example, if the homeowner said, you know, I don't know what the problem is, it's cold in my house and I've had this, we can log in and say, well, if you're cold, maybe turn it up a little bit. It's 72 and you have it set to 72. Like, it seems unusual, but it does happen. If we scroll down on the left-hand side, we can see the equipment summary for this unit. So this is a 5 series unit. So I can currently see that this unit is set up. It's a 3-ton unit. I can see that here where it says it's an NDVO 38. I can see it's currently running in low speed. The fan motor is in speed 5, and I can see what my return air temperature going back to that unit is. Over here on the right-hand side, I have the ability to see a lot more data. I can see all of the energy usage broken out by what the actual item is. And then over here, a little bit more to the right, I'm just going to scroll a bit. This is the current weather data that's in that location for the consumer. So as you can see, there's a fair amount of data that's available to the consumer, but this is pretty much it from a consumer standpoint. Matt, anything to add on this consumer view?
No, as you've said, I don't want to say basic, it's simplified. I think it's the data that a homeowner cares about, right? How much energy consumption, what's the temperature? I got a green check so everything's good and there's no lockouts.
Yeah. So if we go to the virtual aid tool really quickly, you can see it here. So this is the virtual aid tool. And this layout is exactly the same as what you would have on your normal aid tool. So I can come in here and I can do a lot of different things. I can go in and I can look at the different diagnostics. I can look at what the thermostat inputs were. I'm not using this for that, but just understand that the virtual aid tool, everything you see here is exactly what you would see if you plugged an aid tool into the unit. So
and
you can
hey, Mike, if I can interject, you get the aid tool because you're logged in as a distributor. That's not, homeowners don't get to click on that.
That is a great comment, Matt. Thank you for putting that out. So as we look across the top here, you see this aid tool function. It only shows up if you're logged in as the dealer. Thank you for adding that, Matt. The TSAT config setup, the same, right? All these things you see right here, these are only available to you as the contractor. The homeowner only has that main screen view. So thank you, Matt, for throwing that out. That probably was a little bit confusing for people. So the aid tool is exactly as we said, the aid tool. It's a virtual aid tool you can access remotely. If we go to the TSAT config and setup, this is going to look exactly the same as the interface for the thermostat you have there. So it could be as simple as, oh man, we just sat through training with Matt or with Mike. He told us how to set the differentials up on the thermostat and we forgot to do it. Well, we've got the ability to log into the thermostat, click on the differentials and see what the settings are. Sometimes people will call us and say, hey Matt, for whatever reason, this unit's going into third stage really, really quickly. Well, we know why just by clicking here, right? Like we can then go in and say, guys, you don't have to send anybody to site. We'll fix this. We'll tell you what we're changing. We'll make those changes. Maybe make your differentials a little wider than 1/2 degree. So again, you can make any thermostat changes you want here. And this would also apply if it's an IZ2 system. You can go in and make zoning changes here as well. The notes field would be where you want to go and save notes on the account. So you might want to make equipment notes, loop notes, service notes. You can put as many notes as you like. You can print them, save them. You know, it's sort of a place you can store data from the standpoint of anything you've done on site. And then as we go to the historical data, this is what we were showing you earlier. So I'm just going to click on the historical. So this is where it's loading the over 100 data points that are logged every 10 seconds. So you can see that April 28th at midnight, the fan only was running. We can see that the entering air temperature was 72 degrees. And as we scroll over, we get access to more and more data. So some of these are empty, and the reason they're empty is that the dealer chose not to get the performance or the refrigeration package. There are upgrades to our equipment that basically internet enables the entire unit. So if you buy a base unit, you're not handicapping the homeowner, you're handicapping yourself. If you buy a fully loaded unit, you're giving yourself access to everything you see here. You can see entering and leaving water temperatures, you can see flow rates, heat of extraction, heat of rejection, all the refrigeration data, all the electrical data. And Matt, what would be the approximate cost to go from a base unit to the holy grail unit is what I'm gonna call it. The fully loaded can do everything.
300 and change.
Right, so for $300, you are giving up the ability to completely remotely diagnose this piece of equipment. As a homeowner, I would want that. And honestly, my opinion, just my opinion, Matt, please weigh in here. I think it should not even be an option. I would be building this into every quote. And when the homeowner says, geez, you're $2,000 too much, or whatever the number is, and we don't know what that is, the first thing you do should not be to disable the maintenance package for you. Because at the end of the day, this is what's going to hold on to your recurring income. Thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think one of the mistakes that was made early on from the sales pitch is presenting, you know, the performance and refrigeration as an upgradable option to the homeowner, presenting the WebLink as an upgradable option to the homeowner. And they say, well, why would I spend $300 on the performance and refrigeration? Why would I spend $500 on the WebLink? My position is and has been, when we're talking about a geothermal system, you're generally in the neighborhood of $30,000. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. And I refuse to believe that we're going to lose a $30,000 sale over $800 in upgrades when you can specifically speak to what these upgrades give, the service, the troubleshooting, all of the remote access. You know, it's just, it was the wrong way to approach it. And generally, Mike, I know we've talked about this at the training we had, so last week or 2 weeks ago now, when you have, basically the pitch has been just try it, right? Was it 2015, 16, for 2 or 3 years, we were giving web links out, and we were giving them out. I don't think we maybe did the best job of telling people this is why you want to install them. But my general experience, I think yours too, has been once you have a dealer try this stuff, they don't go back, right? And that's been my, try it once. If you don't like it, if you find fault with it, I'll never mention it again. But generally speaking, if a dealer tries it, that becomes their new standard. And I would say that's reflected in our sales and in our stocking levels, is that we have more and more of these heat pumps, particularly the 5 series, that we're stocking fully loaded because we know that's what the dealers are asking for.
I agree with you, Matt. I think that it does fall upon us to, continue that education component. And I think that initially when it was launched, it was a little bit too smart thermostat, right? And the reality is that if you spend the $300 to fully load your piece of equipment, you're going to be doing a maintenance package again completely remotely. You can see this column right here. This particular unit, they didn't go for the option, but you can see the HEHR. You can literally log in and validate every single month in about 3 seconds that, yeah, this 3-ton unit has a great performance. You can send that homeowner their report every month saying we've logged in, we've validated the performance of your unit, it meets the factory spec, there are no lockouts, the unit is running great, we'll review it again in 30 days. And again, if you're charging $100 for that service and then you plan to go and see them every year physically to validate that everything on site is good, there's no chemicals stored anywhere strange, the unit still looks great, like there's nothing strange happening in the house, your competitors that are not doing that can't compete with you. It's literally sort of like looking at the Elon Musk versus going back to the lunar rover. Like, this is the future, but it's available to you now. And the irony of it is that you don't pay for this. This is a free service that WaterFurnace is providing to everybody because, again, it ensures that their product is going to continue to operate properly. It protects their brand and it protects your brand. So as we look at this, you can see there's a, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say the other thing, as much as we're talking about all of the power that this offers remotely, and it does, I think there's also tremendous value locally, right? There are going to be times when you've got service techs on site, whether it's a regular maintenance, whether they're in the area, whatever. But I mean, we talk about this a lot, where generally speaking on a water furnace, you don't need to put your gauges on the system, right? You verify the water side, you verify the air side or the load water side. And if those things check out, you don't need to put your gauges on the system because those can't check out if you've got a refrigeration issue. Having said that, there are going to be times where one of them doesn't check out, or they're a bit maybe within spec, but barely, and maybe you are a bit suspicious of the refrigeration side. When you load this heat pump for $300, you can verify the refrigeration performance, whether it's in person or remotely, without putting gauges on it, right? So you don't have to take the risk of, are you contaminating the system? If you're doing this once a year after 12 years, how much charge have you accidentally let out? You can get all of the refrigeration data you would with gauges without actually putting gauges on it, whether that's remote or whether it's in person.
Yeah, and that's a great functionality. I know during the training we did, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I can't remember either, Matt, we do too much of it. The light that went up in people's eyes when they saw what you can do with this, just the simple fact of what Matt said. You don't have to take your gauges off the truck, right? If you buy a fully loaded unit, you have all that data. You want to know what the superheat is? Look. Now, you can look cloud-based like we're doing right now, or you can do it with your aid tool. You can plug your physical aid tool in. If you have a great technician that doesn't want to use a tablet, doesn't care about using apps, great. Plug your aid tool in, you can do it that way as well. Just a bit sidebar, I do see the questions. I am going to answer all of them. I don't want you guys thinking I'm ignoring you. So as we look at this, you can see here's our download data button, so we can download the data if we wanted to use it later. The columns that we talked about, so we could say, okay, we want to select none of these columns, and the only thing I care about is what is happening on the flow rate side. I can look at loop pressures, I can look at outdoor air, entering air, like you guys pick. You can certainly go right back to select all. The other thing that you have the ability to do that I'm a big fan of is they've made it, you can now change the column widths. Might not seem like much, but when you're looking at data, it's nice to be able to drag these columns where you want them. Obviously, you can reset them very easily. Over here, what we have is the different options on how the data can be viewed. So if we wanted to view it as we are now in the Excel format, as we call it, or you could go to the graphical format, which you can see here. And apologies on that. So you can see here, here's the graphical format. So I can see fan speeds and all of my operation, whether I'm in dehumidification, my fan is on, reversing valve, etc. And you can choose what shows up here. As we're seeing, it is a metric ton of data. And then the last view, which I like a lot, this is the troubleshooting view. So this troubleshooting view gives us a lot of functionality from the standpoint of being able to see what is this unit doing, what is this unit not doing. So if we'd selected a time that was at a lockout, this might be when the lockout happened, but we can literally hit previous and see what was this unit doing before it locked out. So if we come up here and look at faults, we'll see if we can find a fault. This E99 is the homeowner resetting the unit. So case in point, if you have a lockout on a unit, you talk to the homeowner, say, please don't reset the unit, just sit tight till we get there. Well, you can see how honest your homeowner is. This E99 fault for the longest time wasn't even in the manuals. Matt and I would scratch our heads going, what's an E99? Obviously, we eventually figured it out. So you have the options of you can just scroll down and find your fault, or you can do this. You can say, okay, I know it's a condensate fault. I'd like to find the E7 faults. And then when you pull that fault up, it's going to show that live troubleshooting form that we selected and go, okay, here is what happened when this unit was locked out. And we can now start to drill down to figure out what happened. But again, more importantly, we can go, okay, this is the unit locked out. What happened right before it locked out? And we can see that by hitting the previous button, and it will load the data that's actually from before that lockout occurred. Any additional thoughts on the troubleshooting view, Matt?
No, I think that's well explained.
Yeah. So again, the homeowner has access to this screen. I just want to show it one more time. This is the only screen the homeowner has access to. This entire bar where you see aid tool, T-stack config, notes, etc. It only shows up as if you're logged in as a dealer. Just want to make sure that was very clear. So the homeowner can see the dashboard. They can see the thermostat. And again, it looks just like their thermostat. I'm not going to touch it because it is an actual homeowner's thermostat, but we can control it with the homeowner there and say, okay, we're going to adjust your thermostat. Or if the homeowner is remote, they have the ability to do it themselves. The other thing I want to show off on the dashboard here is that if you look at this thermostat, this empty space here isn't by accident. If you had a zoning package, every single thermostat would be showing on this interface for the homeowner and for you. The energy screen we showed in our presentation, which you can see here. So you can see here is the average cooling consumption. Here is the average heating consumption. We can look at it from a variety of different ways. We can look at it for 13 months. We could do by weeks, days, hours. So if the homeowner said, hey, Matt, during the week of, I don't know, April the 4th to the 10th, I had a really high hydro bill, Matt can log in and have a look at it. I can log in. You guys can log in and say, okay, what happened during that week? They can also see their alerts. So the homeowner can see there are no active alerts on it whatsoever. So that's kind of our bird's eye view of Symphony. Obviously, we didn't want to eat up a lot of time for you guys. We wanted to try to cover it in an hour. I think we did a pretty good job on that. I would again encourage you that if you want to see more about this, reach out to myself, reach out to Matt. We're certainly happy to help you. Go online, check out our LinkedIn or our YouTube channel. There's a lot of different options on where you can get data. And with that, I want to answer the 3 questions that have popped up. So the first one is from Mike Mindorf. Good to see you, Mike. He's saying, why does Symphony not always reset when the internet goes down? So Mike, good news for you. As of last month, that issue has been addressed. What was happening is WaterFurnace with the Symphony system, if you had any kind of a blip in power, it would cause the internet to have a hiccup and it wouldn't always come back. You would log in and you would see a white screen. WaterFurnace was fully aware of this and they've made changes to the firmware and how it operates. That bug doesn't exist anymore. So what would happen is you would temporarily lose power due to an over voltage or a brownout condition, and every now and then we would have a Symphony that would give us grief. They've addressed that issue. The other question that came out, which is again from Mike, it's a bit off topic, but it has to do with the boards inside of our equipment. So the Symphony system itself, the cloud-based software updates itself automatically, obviously. If you ever have to update the hardware in the equipment, then the way that you would do that is you would take what's called a PIT kit, plug it into the board, push a button on the board, and it updates it. Again, on our YouTube channel, we have a video that demonstrates how to do this. We cover this in every training class we do as well, including the one we did 2 weeks ago. And we're certainly happy to come out and sit down and talk with anybody about how to do different things. And then David has a question, and Matt, I'm gonna have you reach out to David after this session just to find out how you can help him. What he's saying is he'd like to know how to set up a 5 series to open or closed loop. So maybe after this, you can sort of walk through that with him.
Sure.
That appears to be all the questions. So obviously we want to say thank you to everybody who showed up this morning. Matt, thanks for being my co-host for this presentation this morning.
Well,
hopefully this inspires some of you to purchase the web link, utilize the free Symphony, and reach out to Matt or I if we can be any help whatsoever. Matt, the closing thoughts are yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate the invite. I appreciate everyone making the time this morning. As we've identified, we didn't do perhaps the best job initially with Symphony. It was a bit too much of a smart thermostat approach, but it's been encouraging to see as we've learned how to present it better, as we've learned its capabilities, and as we're presenting those capabilities to dealers, whether it's on mornings like this remotely or in person. We're seeing success in the power, and it's also encouraging that WaterFurnace listens to the feedback and makes the changes so it's even more user-friendly and more powerful for us and dealers as a service tool.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I have to give major props. I know you were getting the closing thoughts, but I didn't give props to WaterFurnace here. WaterFurnace as a company continues to evolve just like Eden Energy, and they've always been a good partner. But what I will say, especially to the dealers who've been dealers for a very long time, is that understand that just like Eden Energy has evolved, just like your company's evolved, so has WaterFurnace. WaterFurnace has gone from a really good partner to a great partner. Like, they are completely invested in the customer, the voice of the customer. And if you have feedback on any kind of WaterFurnace products or features, or if there's stuff that you want to have, reach out to me. You know, WaterFurnace wants that feedback. They're participating. They're on this webinar as we speak, and they want to hear from you. I will note, just in the general housekeeping, we are going to be doing a WaterFurnace dealer meeting at the end of September. We're going to be bringing everybody in. You're welcome to bring guests with you, and we will obviously have all the senior leadership from WaterFurnace there. We look forward to seeing you and having that feedback. And on that note, we're going to wrap this webinar up. We value your time. Thank you for coming. Thanks again, Matt.
Yeah, thanks everyone.